All right, good morning, Anthony. Thanks for coming along and having a bit of a chat about your journey. I'm super excited to hear about it.
Absolute pleasure.
So, as you know, we've got a growing audience of people who are interested in becoming members of the College of Functional Movement Clinicians, which is effectively the first of its kind in the world that's collaborating people who have this skill set of movement training that we want to transfer to our patients to help with their musculoskeletal pain. And of course, the principle applies to every joint in the body. Our area of focus, of course, is spine. And I think everyone's going to be super excited to hear about your journey with your spine pain. So
Yeah.
let's maybe start with a few demographic type questions. Tell us a little bit about yourself to start with.
So I guess, I'm middle-aged. I'm 47 years of age. Strongest and fittest in my life that I've ever been now, thanks to this whole process.
And what type of job? You're an office worker or?
Yeah, I'm an office worker.
Work at a desk?
Work at a desk, always sitting.
Full-time, 5 days a week?
Yeah, pretty much five days a week. I go to the office 3 times, but at home 2 days a week. At home I get more of an opportunity to move, so I've really got to be quite conscious of it when I'm in a work situation.
And that's been the case for your whole career? You've always been
Absolutely,
an office worker?
yeah, whole career.
Okay, and when did you first start noticing that, hey, I've got a bit of a back problem going on here?
Well, the first time was when I was 30. So essentially, we just had my first son, who's now 17 years of age, and I went to pick him up out of a travel cot, and something just went like that, and I was in pain, and I had to lay down, and I accepted that, and really all I did was like rest for a couple of days, went away, and I was good again.
Yep.
And that was the first inkling that I'd had of any type of back issue.
Yep. And so, like most people, I suppose you would think, well, it's because I just strained something in my back, some structure in my spine, or my peri-articular soft tissues, which has just been pushed a little bit too beyond its structural integrity. Boom, it hurts. And then you've recovered, so you feel that you're through. Yeah,
through the felt like it was through. Yeah. But then, essentially, what happened was the next time I was in Bulgaria, and a similar kind of thing happened. And then I went and saw like a musculoskeletal person in Bulgaria.
Okay, right.
And he was like into like yoga and all that sort of stuff, and he really helped and cracked me and all that sort of stuff, and I got better pretty quickly. But
so what was the trigger for that episode of pain?
I think I was stuck in the plane for because to get to where we needed to get to in Bulgaria, it took us like 14 hours from London. So it was like in a car, and then in a plane, and then in a car for another 6-7 hours. So it just destroyed my back. And by the time I'd finished and got out of the car, I was in immense pain.
Okay. So and what made you go and see this person? Just a friend of a friend? Or
it was a friend of a friend. I mean, where we were in Bulgaria, there wasn't that much choice. So it was just somebody who said that they could help. So I went because I was in excruciating pain.
When you went there, was it predominantly couch-based? Did he lie you down on a couch?
I was more like, I would say it's more equivalent to like a chiropractor kind of thing. It was lots of cracking.
Assessment table, supine and prone on a table.
Yeah.
Okay. So he did his thing, hands-on therapy. And you walked out of there feeling better, or what was the? It's a long time ago, I know. But
I felt worse to begin with, but then it slowly got better. Like as I got more treatment from him, it got better. Right. But it was just a downward spiral. Because essentially it used to happen like once a year, my back, and then it started happening twice a year, and then it was 3 times a year, and then it just got worse and worse. And every time that I went through that, I stopped doing things. I stopped like my process was not to increase my movement and do anything more. It was to actually reduce.
Restrict your
Yeah, and I
lifestyle
just
activities.
kept going down.
And did you keep going back to the same type of therapeutic or symptom-based interventions when you had your flare-ups?
Yeah, because like everyone's an expert these days. So when you go, oh, I've got back issues, somebody says, oh, I know this great chiro, I know this great physio, I know this great, yoga, masseuse, whatever.
training.
So I just do whatever was
Yes.
available.
And because you engage in that activity whilst you've got pain, and then several days or weeks later the pain improves, you naturally attribute the improvement to that intervention.
Yes, you do.
But it may not be that intervention actually did anything. There's lots
No.
of other things that are happening at the same time. The natural process of inflammation is to steadily
Yeah.
resolve.
Yeah.
But people kind of... Did you feel as though when you did that therapy, that was what was making you better? You think, I just got to do more of that therapy?
I did feel that. I did feel that it was more of that therapy. I did just continually just go down that journey of just going, well, because it would get you out of pain. And I think that's where those treatments, have their benefit in they get you out of pain, but they don't keep you out of that,
So they did improve your... Well, you perceived that the intervention improved on your pain symptoms.
Yeah.
There may be some fact that may be precise, that may be accurate, but yet it did not give you a solution to preventing future
No.
flare-ups of
Nothing.
episodic pain.
Nothing.
Okay, so we jump forward quite a few years now. So you've had what we would then refer to as relapsing and remitting back pain.
Yes.
So in the beginning, it's an acute episode of back pain, gets better, but as you sort of reflect on the past and you go, I was getting an episode of pain every 3 months, now you fall into this category of relapsing remitting pain.
Yeah.
How long did you have that type of history for?
That went for about, I would say, close to 2 years.
2 years.
2 to 3 years, and it just got worse
More
and
frequent
worse.
attacks.
More frequent.
Lasting longer.
I couldn't lie in bed in a side position. Like I had to be in a specific way of sleeping. I had to be in a specific way of seating. Like everything was just slowly, slowly changing.
So many things that you need to you're sort of cotton wooling yourself to avoid these
Exactly.
painful flare-ups, and it's almost like we refer to that as fear avoidance. You would avoid things because you're scared that, oh my God, I don't want to have another flare-up.
Yeah.
And then when do you think you moved into the phase of chronic pain, meaning I don't really have any good days anymore, I just have bad days and worse days?
I think that was probably about 3 or 4 months. No, it's probably about a year before I met you and went through the whole process. I'd got to the stage where we just had a big go-live event at my work, like, in IT, we put a new system in. And essentially, under the stress of all of that, I could only work from home for like 3 months, and I was working from my bed because I couldn't do anything else. And I would literally crawl everywhere in the house. I couldn't move. I couldn't step up.
Incredible. I think and that I don't think people who have not experienced that type of disability can really conceptualise what that's like for a 40-something man or woman who just has to live their life like that in the prime of your life.
It was terrible. Like my life consisted of getting to work. Sometimes I would go to work and I would drive to work, and I would literally take half an hour to get out of the car to be able to stand, and then I would get myself to my desk and I would go through that process, and then I would drive home, and by the time I drive home I'd be in that much pain again. All I would do was just lie down and watch Netflix, and that was my life for a good 3 months, that I was just going, this is rubbish.
So it was really hard. And the crazy thing is that there are a lot of people out there living that life kind of secretly.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk to people about it. You
No.
feel, you feel a bit worthless. There must be a lot of psychological effects that has on you too.
heaps. Like, I mean, I just didn't feel like I could be a good dad anymore because I couldn't spend the time with my kids. I couldn't take them surfing. I couldn't do these activities that they were doing. And I would literally, I mean, my wife, she essentially pretty much took the reins of doing all those things for the kids because I just couldn't do it.
You just had to reserve yourself so you could just go to work and earn that paycheck.
That was all I was doing.
You know.
And there's also a lot of I guess stigma around back pain.
Yes.
Like people who don't experience it. It just looks like it's an easy excuse, for not being able to perform or not working or whatever. People go, oh yeah, it's just your back. You can't prove it.
As a malingerer, a weak person, someone who may be addicted to analgesics or opioids.
100%.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's a disease that has so much disability associated with it, but yet it's not sympathised. There's no one who has empathy for it. It's not like cancer or neurological diseases where everyone, oh, that's terrible, terrible. Back pain, people who suffer from back pain are like, yet they actually make up a huge part of the economic disease.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. So, were you reliant on pain medications too to try control the symptoms?
I used to take anti-inflammatories, like just take the what was it, the what do you call it? Yeah, the Nurofen and Voltaren, that sort of stuff.
Did anyone tell you what anti-inflammatories were doing to your spine? GP or the therapist that you were seeing?
No, they just said it was just increasing the blood flow, which would reduce the inflammation. So
did anyone say, why have you got inflammation in your spine?
No. No.
This is something that frustrates the bejesus out of me, is that anti-inflammatories are a very potent medication that alter the chemicals transmitters in your body to reduce inflammation. And we're very happy to prescribe anti-inflammatories because it makes you feel better. People are very happy to take anti-inflammatories. But no one gets told, hey, your disc or your facet joint or your tendon or your ligament, your joint capsule is inflamed because of X.
No.
If someone had said, hey, Anthony, X is inflaming your joint, what would you have said to do about X?
Yeah, I would have been asking questions like, how do I get rid of X?
Exactly.
And
Okay.
I started, I found there was, as I went through that journey, I got better people that were helping.
Yes.
So I met this guy called the Back Whisperer, right? And he started the whole process of talking about that a lot of the pain is not real. It's the body's kind of safeguard mechanism. And so he used to give me needles in the back, and they had nothing in them, but that would create a response. And I would literally walk into the surgery not being able to struggling and holding the walls and all that sort of stuff. And he would jab me, and then I would walk out. And then. And that was my kind of safeguard. And I went, oh, wow, I've got something. Unfortunately, he retired. And then I had nothing. And then I was left again. And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? So my process then, and I had this.
Oh my God, my Back Whisperer's
retired. Gone. And I was gone. And I was so reliant.
The Back Whisperer was still a very fancy or very potent anti-inflammatory in a way, though.
Yeah, it was just getting me out of pain. It was allowed, but I had this instinctive move, thoughts that I had to move. So when it got to the stage when I went through that 3 months of and I kind of made a decision with myself. I said, I don't care what this is, but I'm going to continue to move. So I just kept doing the things. I was still protective and I was still, but I started going swimming and surfing, I just went, I'm going to do it. I was still in pain, but I just went, you know what? I'm just not going to let this stop me.
And I know what you do for a living. You're a data analyst, you're an intelligent person, so you kind of know that joints, which your spine is made up of, lots of joints need movement.
Yeah.
So you were convinced that you had to move somehow, but a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, no, I've got to lay on the couch.
Yeah.
Which is the exact opposite to getting yourself out of the quicksand. So you understood that movement was required, but you let's move into the journey to understanding movement now then. How did that happen when you started to define movement?
So that's when, I think my wife heard a podcast that you were on.
Right.
And you were talking about all of these
I think
things.
that was called the GP show.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
It was.
GP show.
And she said, you have to have a listen to this. There's this new way of doing something. And I was like, oh, here we go again. Another potential idea. But the thing about, like, one of the things for me is I've always been able to kind of open myself up to different experiences. So I'm just like, yeah, okay, let's go.
Yep.
And it was like, you sign up for this NeuroHab 8-week course and you go from there. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
Sounds pretty simple.
So I just kept like hassling, I think it was Joe as well as Di, and I was just going, get me in. I want to come and do it.
Yeah, I want to move. Okay.
Yeah, and so that was the beginning, and then I came along to that, and I had to obviously see you first, and I think it always struck me when you looked at my MRI, and you went, your back's better than mine. And it was like, and I went.
People don't believe
I went, are you serious? Like,
coming from a background where you feel as though you're so fragile, you'd be thinking my back must be really decrepit.
Oh, 100, yeah.
And for me to look at your MRI scan and look at the structural integrity and go, well, it's not that bad. That must be profound.
That
you
was.
Go home and tell your missus?
I just said.
What's this doctor talking about? He said my back's not bad. Makes you feel worse, maybe.
Well, I just
make
thought
you feel like you're bunging it on him, more.
It did make me think, like, back to, I guess, like some of the other things that I'd heard in terms of that there's so much like neuro connections going on here that are protecting it. So I started to go, I need to break that path, and like a bit of hassling, and I got into the course. Started the course, and like so many other things happened. Like I had other kinds of pain from my back that I didn't even realise. Like I had pain that kind of radiated down into my front, and I always thought like something was wrong with my stomach or my gut or something like that. And when I started doing the NeuroHab stuff, it was painful for the first like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, that just started to disappear. It started to go. It was gone.
Yeah.
And then as I just progressed through that whole process.
Yeah. I'm so glad I did that podcast. I nearly cancelled that podcast because we were running late, and Sam, who was the host of the podcast, was running late. And we thought, should we put it off? But we said, no, let's do it. And here you are, thanks to that bloody podcast. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And so the thing about the scan, just for our listeners, the scan is a structural image of your joints. It's not a functional image. It doesn't show us how things are functioning. So you can have a perfectly good-looking scan and everything structurally looks great. But remember, an MRI is a snapshot. It doesn't give us any indication of how the system is functioning. It's not a functional investigation. It's a purely structural investigation. So that's why people don't quite understand how they can be in so much pain and yet have a fairly normal scan, and vice versa. They can have a fairly ugly looking scan and be perfectly well. Because you can have an aged person with lots of degenerative changes, and as long as they're functioning well, those bits and particles don't hurt them.
Yeah.
And I see many patients every day in their 20s with really nice looking scans and nice healthy looking discs, but yet they are in significant pain and disability. So, moving into the NeuroHab, what were the key early messages that you got out of NeuroHab?
It was the fact, like, it went against everything that what I'd been taught previously, especially about lifting, right? So, we were always taught to essentially bend our knees and pick up the load. And when I remember the first time we had to do a deadlift with a kettlebell, and it was only like an 8 kilo kettlebell.
Did you have to have it elevated?
And it was elevated off the thing, and in everything in my brain was saying, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?"
Because you were being made to incline your spine, whereas before you were trying to probably keep it straight like a light pole.
Yep. And so I was just it was really scary for me to even pick that up. And then but we went through that. The hip hinge was just an evolution in terms of I just got my broomstick and did it every single day at home. And all of those, I guess, those fundamental movements, like understanding the squat, understanding, to squat to a box, and all of those amazing things, that
simple,
just
fundamental basics.
Simple, and just slowly just progressed, right? I remember the first time I did push-ups, and I was push-ups on a windowsill, on the windowsill. So I was only like a, probably 20-degree incline. To now, when I can actually do push-ups, so it's just...
We're going to talk about that in a second, where you come to. But the whole, it's just profound that someone can... So we're talking like 15 odd years before you got this awakening. 15 years that you're bouncing around the industry, GPs, doctors, different forms of physical therapists, before you just get this information about movement and defining movement. And then you do a hip hinge and you suddenly switch on your multifidus, and you suddenly switch on your glutes, and you suddenly switch on your hamstrings. And all of that like turbocharges the reduction in inflammation. It's bloody profound. And so that would have been very simple for you after you actually experienced it firsthand. God. Did you think, why? Like, why has it taken me this long to understand this? Like, where are these people?
I didn't think why. I was just so grateful. I was honestly so grateful that I was now on a path of something, and I think, there's a purpose for that journey that I've taken, so that I can share it with other people, so that they can kind of experience it and go, oh, okay, maybe I can fast track and go straight to the movement side of thing. So,
fantastic. So let's talk a quick bit about, just for our viewers, Anthony and I have both done some functional training ourselves today. We're well beyond your state of being a patient. You're now an athlete. You compete almost every day in functional fitness, and what's the future hold in terms of your athletic capacity now?
I think the future is just continually going up. I see myself now just getting better and better with different things. I've got more endurance, I've got more strength, I'm getting more mobility and flexibility on certain things. I'm close to being able to do pull-ups properly, doing hands, I want to be able to do handstands. I have my goals that I want to work through, and I think that's what this whole functional fitness does. It continually gives you goals to work towards.
Imagine what you just said, I'm working towards doing handstands. Imagine saying that 10 years ago when you're sitting in the car park taking 15 minutes to get out of your car.
I know.
Would I be thinking about doing handstand push-ups or handstand
it's incredible.
Walks and things like that?
It's incredible.
And I can say, when I train with Anthony, I see him doing beautiful squats, I see him doing beautiful deadlifts, and it just looks natural. It's just the way the body was designed to move, and it just keeps inflammation in our spinal joints at a very, very low level. We sometimes push it a little bit. There was a few weeks ago when we were doing some sumo deadlifts, and we kind of broke a couple of the rules about capacity and demand, and we get flare-ups. That's normal, that's natural, as we're sort of working at threshold. But when you get an injury, accidentally, maybe just trying to push that adaptation a little bit too much, what do?
You just go back to the fundamentals.
Go back to the fundamentals.
It's really simple.
Your body fixes itself.
100%.
It's just,
because when I had that issue that you said about 3 weeks ago or so, it literally took me, I think, about 3 days to get over it. And I just knew, and I was in pain. I was struggling to walk again and all that sort of stuff. But I just did. I just went back to hip hinges, went back to doing some basic squats, you know, and just focused on those things. And then within, the body was able to recover. The body was able to learn that it was okay and safe to go into those positions again, and that was good.
The body wants to. There's no human body that wants to be unhealthy.
Yeah.
You just let the body do its thing. Stop putting the barriers up to to healing itself, and it will heal itself.
Yeah.
I'm excited, lastly, about, is this correct? Like you're thinking about now becoming a trainer in terms of movement therapy with the college. Tell us about that. What do you think?
Oh, look,
you know, opening, what doors are opening?
I think, you know, both my wife and I are on kind of journeys of health discovery and a whole different level of disciplines. Yeah. Movement is just one of those aspects, really important one. So it's kind of another string to the bow to being able to help people, because, you know, you only have to walk around shopping centres and you see people in pain. You see people not moving properly, like they shuffle when they walk, they don't lift their feet, you know, and those things are slowly impacting on them, and it's like this thing that slowly grates away. You don't notice it, you don't notice bad movement the first time, but you notice bad movement after 10, 30 years, and then all of a sudden you're in a world of pain.
Yeah, and your default movement now is so proficient that you've now learnt the skill of being able to spot bad movement, and once you have that skill, you can then teach that person.
I don't know how many people I've taught the hip hinge. Like they start going, "Oh, my back's sore," and I'm like, "Okay," and I try and find a stick and kind of go, "Hey, just start doing this."
You're kind of doing it at Christmas parties and at work meetings when people, because back pain is so common. Yep. They'll just, I had a couple of days off because of bad back, and you go, okay, it happens all the time.
And they get immediate like benefit from it, right? They get immediate benefit.
Yeah. So effectively, you're being a movement clinician already without even knowing it. And this is, the college is there is designed there to harness your skill set and just standardise it. Because obviously, you know, we do want to standardise the training that people like yourself give to other people, but it really does allow us to send that therapy far and wide, as opposed to just being in isolated little parts of the world or the country. There's many, many people who have the skill set that you've got, and you've acquired that skill set by being a patient and just striving and pursuing all of those elements of health, movement being one of them, diet, nutrition, sleep, and stress. Yep. So that's absolutely fantastic. That's a superb story. Thank you so much for sharing that.
No, thank you so much for...
And very happy for us to share that on our
100%.
on our website
100%.
and various forms of social media, so that the public can learn from it. And maybe this little podcast is going to help other people. Yep. And there'll be another Anthony out there who's sitting in their car park trying to get out of their car right now, struggling with pain. Yeah. That's bloody fantastic, mate.
It's awesome.
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks very much. Great. See you later.
See you next time.